A truck just stopped being built after 63 years. Not because it broke down, not because nobody wanted it, because the men who built it had to admit something painful. The era it came from is finally over. Today we're looking at 5 sleeper cabs. Cabs where men slept, ate, prayed, and sometimes died, rolling across a continent that doesn't slow down for anybody. One of them just got buried in 2026. Stay till the end and you'll know exactly why. Most people think a sleeper cab is just a bed bolted behind a seat. It isn't. It's the difference between trucking being a job and trucking being a life. Every cab on this list changed what that life looked like, and we're going in order. Oldest to newest, classic to cutting edge. Number 1. Peterbilt, 281. Before the 281, a trucker's bed was whatever he could rig up himself. Plywood, blankets, a box welded behind the cab. Peterbilt didn't invent that idea, but in 1954, rolling out of their Oakland, California plant, they gave it a face that truckers never forgot. They called it the Needlenose. The name came from its narrow hood and butterfly-style opening, a nose so slim mechanics joked you could thread it like a sewing needle. But that narrow nose wasn't just style. It meant easier engine access and a clearer sightline down the highway, 2 things that mattered more than chrome when you were hauling freight across mountain passes with no power steering. The 281 ran a single drive axle. Its tandem axle sibling, the 351, actually outlived it in popularity, but the 281 is the one that became myth. Here's where it gets interesting. In 1971, Steven Spielberg put a 1955 Peterbilt 281 in a TV movie called Duel, a faceless, monstrous tanker truck chasing Dennis Weaver across the California desert for 90 straight minutes. No backstory, no driver you ever see, just that narrow, needle-nose grille filling the rearview mirror. It's one of the most tense films ever made about a truck, and it turned the 281 into something closer to a villain than a vehicle. The sleeper itself? Minimal, small, cramped by today's standards, barely enough room to lie flat. But for a generation of drivers used to sleeping sitting upright in the cab, it was the first taste of something resembling rest on the road. The 281 proved truckers would pay for comfort. The next truck on this list proved they'd pay for legend, and it's still rolling in 2026 for now. Did your dad or grandfather ever drive a Peterbilt 281? Drop the story in the comments, we read everyone. Number 2. Kenworth W900. If the Peterbilt 281 was a ghost story, the Kenworth W900 is a 63-year love affair. It started simple Kenworth's 900 model, sharing a chassis with their K100 cab over, built for one job: give a long-haul driver a smoother, quieter ride than a cab over could ever offer, because the engine sat out front instead of under the seat. By 1965, it became the W900A, longer hood, bigger radiator, room for the diesel engines that kept getting hungrier for displacement. And then, in 1976, Kenworth did something nobody else had done at factory scale. They introduced the Aerodyne, the first raised roof sleeper ever built on a factory production line, with 2 skylight windows that let a driver see stars without leaving his bunk. For the first time, a trucker could stand up inside his own truck. The W900A became a movie star almost by accident. In 1977, a black and gold W900A with a 36-inch sleeper rolled through Georgia and Texas, filming Smokey and the Bandit. The production actually used 3 different trucks, 2 1974 models and 1 1973, but on screen, it was one truck, one legend, the Bandit's truck. In 1990, the W900L arrived 10 inches more hood than the W900B, stretching the nose into the silhouette every trucker now associates with the word Kenworth. It became, in the company's own words, the definitive long-nose truck. Remember how we opened this video? This is that truck in 2025. Kenworth announced the W900 would sunset. After 63 years and more than 280,000 trucks built, a legacy edition rolled out at the Mid-America Trucking Show. Vintage tuck-and-roll sleeper interiors, throwback badging, only 1,000 units ever to exist. Production started in October 2025 and continues into 2026. Then it's done. Forever. The W900 outlived disco, dial-up internet, and 3 different American truck emission laws. What finally killed it wasn't a better truck. It was the world around it changing. We'll come back to exactly why at the end. If you've ever sat in a W900 sleeper, tell us in the comments Aerodyne or Studio Sleeper. Number 3. Peterbilt 379. If you close your eyes and picture semi-truck, there's a good chance you're picturing this one, even if you don't know its name. The Peterbilt 379 launched in 1987 from Peterbilt's Denton, Texas plant, replacing the long-running 359. Square nose, massive aluminum hood, a grille wide enough to make every other truck on the interstate look small. It became almost immediately the most popular owner-operator truck in American trucking history. Midway through its run, Peterbilt introduced something called the Unibilt Sleeper, an integrated cabin sleeper design, riding on its own air ride suspension, separate from the chassis. That meant a smoother ride specifically inside the sleeper, with a wider walk-through opening between the driver's seat and the bunk. For truckers logging hundreds of thousands of miles a year, that air-ride sleeper wasn't a luxury. It was the difference between a back that worked at 50 and one that didn't. Pop culture sealed the deal. When Michael Bay needed a face for Optimus Prime in 2007's Transformers, he chose a Peterbilt 379 extended hood. That exact movie truck, a 1992 model, later sold at auction for over $100,000. Not because of the engine, because of the legend stitched into that hood. Production ended in 2007, replaced by the 389. But here's the part that tells you everything. Clean, pre-emissions 379s. Especially ones running Caterpillar engines still command premium prices on the used market today, almost 2 decades later. Purists will tell you the 379s is the peak of classic long-nose design, and the 389s just continued its legacy. The 379s proved a sleeper cab could be a status symbol. But while American truckers were chasing chrome and legend, somewhere in Europe, an entirely different philosophy was being built, one obsessed with something American trucks barely thought about: survival in a crash. Number 4. Volvo VNL. In January 2024, Volvo Trucks North America unveiled an all-new VNL, not a refresh, a ground-up reinvention, 6 years of research, a 90% redesign from the previous generation. Built at Volvo's New River Valley plant in Dublin, Virginia, the numbers alone separate it from everything we've covered so far. Aerodynamic redesign improving fuel efficiency by up to 10%. A D13 engine making between 405 and 500 horsepower with up to 1,950 pound-feet of torque. But the real story is what happens after the engine shuts off. The new VNL runs on a 24-volt electrical architecture, a first for a North American truck at this scale, which means the sleeper's air conditioning can run nearly silently overnight off a chassis-mounted electric compressor, instead of idling the diesel engine all night just to stay cool. The batteries are deep-cycle AGM units built specifically to survive that kind of overnight hotel load demand. Every port inside is 12-volt or USB-C. If you've got shore power hooked up, you even get full 120-volt AC inside the sleeper, enough to run a real refrigerator, a coffee maker, a laptop charger, without burning a drop of diesel. Safety tells the same story. The new VNL offers a side curtain airbag, a North American industry first, with options for driver-only or driver and passenger coverage. This isn't a truck designed to look tough. It's a truck designed assuming the worst day of a driver's life might happen, and built to protect him through it. In 2025, that redesign won a Red Dot Award, one of the most respected design honors in the world, and a category very few trucks have ever touched. The VNL represents trucking treated as a workplace safety problem to solve. Our final truck takes that same modern engineering and points it somewhere almost nobody expects, off the highway entirely. Quiet, diesel-free overnight, AC game changer, or gimmick? Drop your take below. Number 5. Western Star 4900. Western Star isn't a household name the way Peterbilt or Kenworth is, and that's by design. The company was born in 1967 as the heavy-duty arm of the White Motor Company, built specifically for the brutal jobs other trucks wouldn't take: logging routes through the Pacific Northwest, oilfield hauls, the kind of terrain that breaks lesser trucks in a season. The 4900 became their flagship, a Class 8 conventional with a square jaw and round headlights that never chased trends, because the people buying it weren't buying for looks. They were buying for a truck that would still run after a decade of gravel roads and brutal cold. But in 2003, Western Star did something that quietly rewrote the record books. They introduced the Stratosphere sleeper, an 82-inch sleeper cab with full standing height and a completely flat floor. To put that in perspective, that's taller and roomier than some studio apartments. It remains one of the largest factory production sleeper cabs ever built by any manufacturer, anywhere. Think about what that means for a driver's actual life on the road. Full standing room to change clothes without hunching, a flat floor for a real mattress instead of a molded bunk, space that turns a truck cab from a place you survive into a place you can actually live. For the drivers who spend 3 weeks out of every month away from home, that's not a luxury feature. It's the entire job becoming sustainable. 5 trucks, 70+ years of history, and one thread connects every single one of them: comfort wasn't ever really about comfort. Stay with us, because the ending of this story is the one most people get completely wrong. The Peterbilt 281 gave drivers a place to lie down. The Kenworth W900 gave them a place to stand up. The Peterbilt 379 turned that space into an identity. The Volvo VNL turned it into a safety system. And the Western Star 4900 turned it into something closer to a home. Every cab on this list was somebody's whole world for months at a time. That's worth remembering next time one rolls past you on the interstate. If you had to live in one of these 5 sleeper cabs for a year on the road, which one are you picking and why? why? Comment below, I read every single one. We talked about the truck that just ended after 63 years. Next video, we're covering the truck that almost never existed at all, a machine the manufacturer tried to kill 3 separate times before truckers refused to let it die. Subscribe so you don't miss it.